So, back when I was in college, I took a philosophy class called The Problem of Being. And I came to a couple conclusions in that class. The first conclusion that I reached was that my professor was an incredibly boring person. I don't think I made it through a single one of those classes without leaving for a good 15 to 30 minutes through at least part of each of those classes. I got an A in that class. I don't remember a single thing that he taught us, though. I just remember he'd get up in front of class and start yammering on and on about all these pointless things. The second thing I learned from that class, I came up with my own idea about existence and my existence, for instance. And I just figured to myself, you know what, I exist right now at this very moment in time, in this very timeline, regardless of whether or not I'm remembered, regardless of whether or not there's another timeline out there in which I've never existed at all. I still exist right here. Even if I'm a figment of somebody's imagination, for instance, which I can't imagine since I have such a full life. But if I were a figment of somebody's imagination, I still exist. It doesn't matter. Like, past, present, future, I exist here, now. To me, that's it. That's all that matters. I'm essentially immortal because I exist right at this moment. I know that you can argue about time and so on and so forth, but you can't erase the fact that I'm here. You know, it is, regardless of what happens. The last thing that I learned from that class is there's no fucking problem with existence. Like, why is there something rather than nothing? What a stupid question. Obviously there's something here. Every single one of us agrees on it. It's like if I walked up to, you know, any random person in the world and brought them a cup of water and poured the water on their hands and was like, "What is this?" They would say water. And so people try to come up with ideas about how the universe began, and I don't know where this assumption comes from, but for some reason people think that there has to be nothing before there's something. But what if there was just always something? And then what you would have would be that something transforming again and again and again and again and again. I think the real problem is in how can you have nothing? Because nothing is just no thing, right? There's no things there. So it's an absence, it's a void. Well, how do you have a void without also having, you know, a positive presence as well? So you have to have positive with the negative. You can't have one without the other. So, because and to me, it's just an argument that's pointless, you know? You can go into, like, yin and yang, you know? This whole thing boils down to that. There's a little bit of nothing and everything, and there's a little bit of everything and nothing. So, and it's all relative. There's a scale. Like, there's more things probably, you know, for instance, there's more things sitting on my table right now than there is maybe like over on that dresser over there that doesn't have anything on top of it. I have a dog sitting on top of my table. That's definitely more things than nothing. Like, so, but at the same time, what's on top of that desk, which would be, you know, air, is more than what is in space. So to me, the question's just fucking stupid. These are descriptor, you know, material versus non-material. I mean, those are just descriptor words. They're scale. There are certain things that are more nothing than other things. There's some things with more substance than other things, and I just don't see how it would even be possible to have nothing without something. You would have no frame of reference, and isn't that all just relative? Isn't a void something, though, in and of itself, just being a void? I mean, it is a void. It is a space where there is nothing. So then here's the other interesting question would be, well, then where would space exist if there was nothing? Like, is space a thing, or is it a concept, or is it just, what is space? So, I mean, I think it's just a pointless conversation to have, and it's so mind-boggling boring, the way that I was taught it, at least. And maybe there's some people out there who are like, no, you're totally wrong. There's more to this. But I gotta tell you, I don't see it. I just don't see it. You have to have something to have nothing. That's all there is to it. That's all I can say. That's all I can think about it. So, there's no problem with being. We're here. We exist. Who the fuck cares why, how we got here? I mean, from a scientific perspective, I think that's an interesting thing to ponder, but I don't think you're going to go back to the beginning of existence. Even if there was a beginning of existence, you can't reach it. It's too far back. We're not going to be able to find it. We know the universe is at least X many billions amount of years, or that's our guess at least. We can't go back. We can't go back that far and see what it was that began it. So I think it's just going to be a question. And I think the question really needs to be, did we come, was the universe created, or was it always here? Because I feel like that's still a question. Because so, if you follow this, we had the theory of the Big Bang, and that was supposed to be like, there was an infinitesimal, minuscule point of something, and it exploded, and now there is the universe, so to speak. How does that make sense, though? Like, what was that tiny that I can't pronounce that word, but that I'm not speaking well today, I'm so sorry. You're distracting me. Stop it. No, she's actually being really good. She's being really calm right now. But where did that tiny, whatever, singularity, infinitely tiny piece of space or matter or whatever you want to call it, where did that come from? That's what I want to know. Like, how, because even that's something, right? They're explaining it as something. They have to put words to it. So whatever that tiny point was, it had to be something. And how do you know? And then after the Big Bang Theory was out, then they came up with, like, the Big Crunch Theory, which was, oh, no, there was something before the Big Bang Theory, but things just kind of went, and then blew up. Okay, well, that puts something there, too. Even if the universe just continuously, expanded and contracted and expanded and contracted, that would still be something. And so we can't like go beyond past, what we think is like the Big Bang. There's just no evidence, nothing to support anything. And I don't even know if the Big Bang Theory is actually true or not. So there you go. Anyway, I think there's just better questions to ask than why do we exist? Why is there existence at all? Better questions might be like, how do I solve my problems with conflict in my family? Or how do we solve the problems of world starvation? Or what is the best way in which to act for our country so that the most amount of people get the most amount of freedom. And I think those are more practical and more reasonable questions to ask. Other questions like, is there a God? What are more metaphysical questions? I think those deserve some time and thought and effort put into it. And the main reason why I think this, though, is because I think what people think about God says a lot about themselves as human beings. I think all of our spiritual thoughts, all of our religious thoughts kind of go back to our own inner psyche and how we are and how we feel and how we experience the world. I don't think religion's anything that's based on sort of what would be called the material world. It's all quote unquote spiritual, but where does the spiritual actually exist? Does it exist somewhere outside of us and outside of the material world, or does it exist only in our minds? So I think it's interesting because I do just think that the spiritual is in our minds to a great extent. I haven't decided whether or not I think there's some sort of force outside of, our mind. Who knows? I don't know. I think she wants me to play with her or something. She's being really good, so I'm going to give her attention now. Bye.